Apple Watch, one company wants to put an entire cell phone on your wrist. All those stories coming up this Wednesday morning. And joining me to break it all down, our own Dagan McDowell, the CEO and managing partner of Rosecliff, Mike Murphy, and the former CEO of Home Depot and Chrysler, Bob Nardelli. Great to see everybody this morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Yeah, a lot on tap. It's been a jam-packed show.
Jam-packed. Time flies.
It really is. And our top story this morning is technology giants taking Capitol Hill. As I first reported weeks ago, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey will testify today before two panels, the Senate Intelligence Committee this morning, followed by the Energy and Commerce Committee this afternoon. Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg also set to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee this morning. Both executives are expected to face questions into how their sites regulate interference and censorship. Joining us right now to talk more about that is Oregon Congressman Greg Walden. He is chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. Good
so your committee is going to be questioning Jack Dorsey into how his company's algorithms police its users and content. Tell us what's most important in terms of what you're looking to solicit from Jack Dorsey.
Well, we want to look at the wizard behind the curtain. Who's pulling the levers? Who's turning the dials? How fair are these algorithms? How do they work? You know, there are lots of reports of conservative voices that have been shadow banned, they allege, or have been shut down, or it goes on and on. And we want to get to the bottom of it and find out why. Look, these are really important American companies. They are iconic, and they are the voice in democracy now, and they have incredible responsibility. It comes with this amazing power to communicate that they've brought to the public square.
Let me ask you, Congressman, because people this morning are wondering, you know, how you view this company, and a lot of people get their news from Twitter.
Absolutely.
Do you see Twitter as a media company?
Absolutely. You know, we had 5 hours with Mark Zuckerberg before the committee earlier this year, and I asked that very question, what is Facebook? And when you cut to the chase, they are media companies in many respects, because they do determine what content flows through, at what rate and what speed, and to what audience, in effect, because they have algorithms that do that. And, you know, in today's world, 280 characters move around the globe at the speed of light and electricity. If you're left out of that discussion for 24 hours while they fix a mistake, you're left out of that debate. I'm an old journalism graduate. I owned radio stations. I'm a First Amendment protector. I love free speech, even when I disagree with it. And these platforms now have incredible power to affect free speech. And we need to make sure that there isn't a thumb on the scale against one viewpoint or another.
Congressman, it's Mike Murphy. When you look at Twitter and Facebook and Google, with your background, you seem like one of the most qualified people to make this assessment. Do you think they need more regulation, new regulation, or is it possible they just no regulation?
Well, Mike, we've grown up in the era of no regulation when you're looking at the online companies. It's part of why they flourished and started and have succeeded here in America, because of our First Amendment rights and our view that speech should only be regulated in the most extreme circumstances. You don't call fire in a crowded theater. Going forward, we want to be careful here that we don't get too much regulation. The first thing we have to do is get to the facts. How do these systems work? How do these decisions get made? Is there unfair influence inside? Look, it's no secret Silicon Valley tilts a little to the left. And the question is, does that somehow seep into how these systems operate? They're incredibly valuable companies. They're incredibly important to democracies around the world. But when you begin to feel like you're being shunned, shut out, shut down, whatever, and we have instances of that, and they're generally on the Republican side, the conservative side. I've got colleagues that feel like they've been shut down at least for a period of time, or delayed, or their ad didn't go up. I very seldom hear from colleagues on the left that their stuff has been delayed or shut down or whatever. So they've got some issues here. Some of the companies have owned up to it. Jack has owned up to it in a couple of instances, said they've made mistakes. We heard that Facebook made mistakes. Our job is to figure out, how does that happen? Are they mistakes? Are they intentional? How do we get them to self-regulate? And if they can't, that's why Energy and Commerce Committee is doing the oversight. We have the authority to do the legislation going forward if necessary.
So, Mr. Chairman, Bob Nardelli here. I mean, exactly to that point, when we hear about people being shut out or suspended, I mean, do you think you'll hear from Mr. Dorsey exactly how those decisions are made? And will that lead to Mike's question about regulation and transparency in the future?
Well, we have Mr. Dorsey's testimony. It's up online on our energyandcommerce.house.gov for the hearing today. Anyway, energyandcommerce.house.gov site, and you'll find the testimony there for Jack Dorsey, and you'll see he says, look, we don't use political influence here. We've got algorithms. We try to be neutral. We believe in the public health of the internet ecosystem. But the question is, it happens, and we hear it happening, and we're trying to find out how does it happen. So this is about getting to transparency. This is about getting to accountability before we get to any legislation. It's really important here that we get to the facts. That's what underpins our work. We had a hearing, Energy and Commerce, a while back on algorithms, just a general overview. How do they work? Most consumers don't think about what's behind what brings up their feeds and the subjects in their feeds and the topics and the coverage. And I think they have a right to know in this platform. These are, you think about in terms of debate on the public square, and the importance of these media companies now, and that's what they really are. Look, they sell advertising, they interconnect. The question is, are they kind of a common carrier in the internet age? And I'm not saying they are, but wow, if you're the connecting points among 300 million people and you can alter what is seen, heard, or said, that's pretty powerful censorship, and that's a tool that I think needs public scrutiny.
Congressman, it goes beyond censorship. It's Dagan McDowell. It's also the reckless disregard for people's privacy and their most personal information, and how particularly Google and Facebook make money off of that and are not being forthcoming to those very users. Can you definitively say, even before this hearing, given the fact that Google and Facebook control the vast amount of advertising that we experience online, that it's already too much power in too few hands?
Well, I'm not ready to say that today, but I do believe when you look at the concentration of online advertising among just a few companies, it's enormous market power and share. And you'd have to throw in Amazon and some of the others. And I think these are the issues as these companies have grown up rapidly, aggressively, effectively in this new internet world, that we have to ask as representatives of the people, is there unfair competition here? Is there too much market concentration here? Is there too much power in the hands of a very few people who literally, you could have a rogue employee shut down the Twitter account of the President of the United States? Oh, I guess that happened, didn't it, for a short period of time? That's amazing ability.
Yeah.
And so I think these are the questions we're trying to get answers to.
Where are the executives from Google and YouTube? I remember a couple of weeks ago during the California primary, if you Googled GOP in California ideologies, one of those ideologies that came up on Google was Nazism.
Right.
Has that been fixed?
That's been fixed, I'm told. Kevin McCarthy has done a great job elevating these issues into the bigger public square of debate, and it's drawing attention, therefore fixing. But why should we have to do that? Why does it happen to begin with? There's example after example. And believe me, I sent a letter about a month and a half ago to all these CEOs saying it's better to come before our committee before you're in the middle of one of these crises and talk to the American people through their elected representatives about how your platform or your product really works. Privacy matters. I don't think people understand it's a goods for services exchange here. The goods is everything you put up, everything about you, all that content then is used. The question is, are they following their own disclosure agreements and with consumers? Yeah. And I'm not sure they are. And by the way, whoever reads those pages of the privacy form, right? And what are you going to do? Not click yes,
That's true.
Click agree? Right. Because you have to be on these platforms in today's world.
And who's signing on the bottom line that, yes, I agree, a 16-year-old?
A 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, an 86-year-old. Who knows, right? We're all doing it because you don't have an option. If you want to communicate in today's world, you have to do it. It's like having a mobile phone. It's like anything else. Who's using that data?
Are these companies too big?
We're going to find out. I mean, that's the thing. Now, look, I don't think big is always bad, but when big becomes a monopoly, when big becomes abusive, when big overexerts, then you've got a problem, some of which can be dealt with the Federal Trade Commission. What I want to know is, are people putting thumbs on the scale? Have they gotten to a market concentration level where they squeeze out any competition? Remember, they were the young upstarts a decade ago. Right. Some of these companies didn't even exist 2 decades ago. Most didn't. And so, I mean, you think about the rapid explosion, the incredible concentration of power. I go back to the old days of AT&T and Judge Green. You know, at some point, you know, things do, if people don't behave or there's too much market concentration, things get broken up. And so you know, I'm not saying that's where we're headed. I want to lay the framework, but Google and YouTube and Apple and these other companies need to understand they will end up before our committee one way or another before we're done with our work. So it's important to hear from them. They should not fear this. They go out in public forums, talk all the time, come before Congress.
So it could be where you're headed, breakups.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying let's get to the answers. Let's figure it out. Is there adequate competition? But, you know, I think about in my old broadcast industry, you think about national caps on ownership and audiences and so many stations in a market.
And AT&T was broken up. Yeah, no, I get it. Congressman, we're going to be watching. Thanks very much for leading this discussion today.
You're welcome.
And we'll be broadcasting it live. Congressman Walden, good to see you, sir. Thank you very much. Stay with us for live coverage of Dorsey and Sandberg testifying before Congress and the Energy and Commerce Committee.